looked like one of your favorite bosses from a movie.
Like Boss Baby or Devil's Advocate?
Am I a joke to you?
One of those is a baby.
This stuff is unwatchable. Darn it, the internet here is consistently terrible, and I was relying on that to get me through tonight's shift. Now I've got to find another way to fill the time. I do have one idea. So, before this fine establishment and its associated iconography became a nostalgia-baiting source of fond memories for people of a certain age, and also a convenient, handy, abandoned place to shoot up, Blockbuster was an industry-leading titan, and that industry, home movie rental, was so big, it was worth tens of billions of dollars. Apparently it was so big, so culturally important, that it justified retrospectively hilarious books about the figureheads of the industry, like this. My personal favourite, this 1994 classic with what appears to be Donald Pleasance's office manager cousin getting the big dog, tough guy photo shoot treatment on the cover. This is my favourite. If only because the guy on it kind of looks like he's auditioning for a Coventry-based remake of Falling Down. It just tickles me. I know it might seem bizarre to you, but don't worry. I'm going to go Clarissa mode here. I'm going to explain it all, the stratospheric rise of Blockbuster in particular, the industry battles, and how and what caused the downfall of an empire of 9,094 stores. Not that, no. Everyone says it is, but it's not. Honestly, I'll explain it. It's going to be fine. But I can't get into Blockbuster quite yet. You see, I know that for a lot of you, Zoomers in particular, that Clarissa Explains It All reference probably landed about as well as Lizzo doing a charity skydive, and therefore I need to bear in mind people who are a younger audience, you know, who won't be familiar with Blockbuster and won't be familiar with the, I guess I should say, the bedrock of its success, the thing that we need to cover first, the VHS. VHS, you know? Not the consistently shitty horror anthologies, the, one of these? Yeah? Okay, we'll start from the top. So I know boomers and maybe older Gen X, you are going to remember how it was pre-VHS. For you back then, you watched movies in the cinema and whatever was showing, that was your choice. Let's say in 1975, you had Jaws, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, you had maybe One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And if you liked Jaws best, you could watch it again until it stopped showing. And then you were done. If you saw it in the television listings, you could make sure you're in front of the TV set at the chosen time and rewatch it then, but otherwise, that was your chance. No more Jaws for you. If you missed it, you missed it. And you had to wait for the next TV or cinema showing. That scarcity, that limited opportunity to view a limited number of films, is a major factor in the phenomenon of blockbusters. And those are the films so popular that the queues for showings took up whole blocks. If you didn't watch one of those showings, you likely missed your chance. And so people would line up, filling up whole blocks. They'd heard good things about the movie. They didn't want to miss out. It was, basically, their only opportunity. In short, and as ever, a limited supply and a high demand is going to result in an increase in value. And, oh, hey, look, 4 shadows. What's the chances of that? No one even... Anyway, I forgot where I was going. My point is that when the video home system VHS releases commercially in 1976, it is not just a flashy new gadget. It's not like you just upgrading your TV. Yeah, you've got a bigger screen, the picture is better, it probably sounds nicer as well. But it's still just a TV, it's doing the same function but better. Or say with an oven, when you have developments in that technology, you go from 2 hours to bake a potato in a conventional Aga oven to a convection oven being able to do the job in about 70 minutes. But then you get a microwave and there's only 11 minutes between you and buttery spuddy goodness. And that is a welcome improvement, obviously, but it's still just an increase in efficiency. VHS is not just an increase in efficiency, it is a fundamental change in your relationship to film and to cinema. You can just, instead of being dependent on cinemas, you just buy the film or tape it off the TV with a blank VHS, doing your best to avoid adverts if you find them annoying. That is a significant change. I don't think I can understate it here. If you're a Star Wars fan and you were blown away when you saw it as a child, you no longer had to wait for it to be re-shown somewhere or to join a slightly nerdy private cinema club and wait for them to get their hands on a reel. You could just buy it or tape it off the TV. And then you suddenly are in control. You can watch Star Wars as often as you want, whenever you want. You can skip past the boring bits. You can rewind for your favorite bits and enjoy them over and over again. The point is, it is your choice. You are in control of that. And I realize that by using Star Wars as the example, I'm possibly underselling the positivity of this for society, but let's not fixate on that. My point is that this change, this sudden increase in autonomy, this control over film viewing that people never had before was so welcome that a mere 8 years after the release of this brand new technology, 28% of US households owned a VCR and could enjoy VHSs at home. And that number goes up into the mid 30% when you consider households with children. But we do have to ask a question at this point. Why does that mean we have Blockbusters everywhere? I mean, don't you just buy the VHS, buy the film, enjoy it at home, right? That's what I said. How come you get Blockbusters and other video home rental stores popping up everywhere? Well, the thing is, the rub, how much do you pay to own a movie right now?
You pay for your movies, right?
Looking around in 2024, if you want to buy a new film on DVD, it seems to me that it's about £8, maybe $10. Or on Blu-ray, I think you're looking at about £16, so $20 or so. But obviously there is a huge amount of variation there. I managed to get the new Screen Collection on Blu-ray, 6 films on Blu-ray for £41, which kind of blows my mind. That seems insanely cheap. I can only assume that because they included Scream 6, the product counted as defective, so I got a discount. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. But that seems to be what the cost is at the moment. In 1985, that new film on VHS would cost you $140. $140 adjusted for inflation. That is, I should specify, for the initial releases, the limited print runs, they would go for $140. I have to add that context because otherwise people will get justifiably quite upset. Studios would do mass market versions of releases, but they would tend to do them if they were certain something had real mass appeal. And then those would go out for about $86 adjusted for inflation. But I have to specify that those might come out years after the initial run. And they might not come out at all, you don't know. VHS, it was a premium product. To put it into some context, you're talking about $520 if you want to binge the original Star Wars trilogy, or if you just keep wearing that copy of Basic Instinct out. Even though that's a big cost, it's not entirely exclusive. I mean, some people are always going to be happy to pay the high cost of a new technology. Think of the latest smartphones or electric cars. There are always going to be people who are early adopters and who are happy to pay that price. With VHS and VCRs, clearly a lot of people were very happy to pay that premium price, as shocking as I found it when I was doing the research for this. And so studios saw that they had this untapped revenue stream. They could release their back catalogue on VHS for the first time and make an absolute mint. Now, Disney will be a good example for this. They started dipping their toe in the water in 1980, releasing what appears to me to be sort of obscure shows that, I'll be honest, I don't have any familiarity with. But in 1985, they released one of their bigger films, Pinocchio, and they released it on one of those mass market VHSs for $29.95, or about $86 in today's money. And that was a huge success. And so in 1988, they released Cinderella on VHS for the first time. And that, in 6 months, sold a total number of 6 million copies. I mean, I know It just seems like a lot. Frankly, in the short amount of time there with the technology available, 6 million is absolutely unbelievable. But that's not even the crazy part. That is the lower end estimate. I get the 6 million figure from Alan Payne in his book. But whoever you believe, obviously, Disney have a certain vested interest in demonstrating success. The total revenue from that, the total profit, is somewhere between 108 and 188 million dollars. Clearly, the demand is there, but still doesn't explain Blockbuster. It still doesn't explain how Blockbuster execs end up at a prestigious award show meeting Chuck Norris and surviving. And the only way that you can explain it is with price points. That's right, we're taking a diversion into economics. The best, I know you're all waiting for it. We're going to talk economics. So for the purpose of this video, let's just say that price points are a series of levels of prices for the same product that are differentiated basically by the market you're selling to. There's usually not too much difference in the product itself, it's more the marketing. So think of coffee. You can buy very cheap coffee, you can buy absolute gourmet coffee, but you're really talking about the same essential product. Now, price points in the VHS market are absolutely crucial to understand here, because otherwise, people are buying the VHSs, right? You just heard Cinderella, Pinocchio, absolutely mind-blowing success. Why have a Blockbuster? It's all about price points. Now, obviously, $140, this initial price point up here, that's a lot. Not many people are going to go with that. That's quite a high demand. That's specialist, as we said. And so the studios releasing this, they only do a limited run of these initial early releases. Now that $140 price point, that is quite exclusive. Not many people are going to pay that much for a VHS film. It's not going to happen for most people. But let's say you're a family with a couple of kids and you know they like the Disney classics. A Disney classic that you know they'd watch several times, you would pay some money for, maybe not that much, but maybe a lower price you could go for. And $86, where Disney seem to pitch their mass market releases, that's really what, 2-3 trips to the cinema? Suddenly, when you view it like that, that doesn't look too unreasonable. And you might actually be willing to go for that for a film you know the kids will like, that's popular, that is from a studio you trust. You can probably go for that price point. That's got a much more mass appeal. However, not all films can do that. And as our regional sales manager, Sean, likes to say, they aren't all Aladdins. $86 for a film you don't know, for something you're just curious about, is a lot to ask. Like, you may have seen there's this Clint Eastwood movie where he's driving around with an orangutan. I mean, that's interesting. I'm curious, but am I $86 curious? No, not really. And that is where a new price point enters the picture. These people start their own price point. You see, the early buyers at $140 have a really exclusive product. They've got the first run of the film. They've got it before anyone else has got it. And so they have this interesting opportunity. They rent out their film for around $10. Now, looking into this was a bit of a nightmare. The prices are all over the place. Loads of people just charge very different rates, but it seems to be about $10 in today's money. So you bought at this point, you then rent it out, say 15 times, and your tape has been paid for by the renters, and you're now making money. Now, it's a little more complex than that. If you go by Alan Payne's figures, then he says you need to rent out the tape about 22 times to be making money. I'm guessing from taxes, from other costs. But either way, 22 rentals? That's not too bad. That's not undoable. That's actually easy to do. And so that lower price point is created. The opportunity opens, and heck, the customers are happy too, because yeah, that's something they're willing to pay. $10 to give it a chance. Why not? That's far less of an imposition. It's cheaper than a cinema ticket. And thus, the video rental market has an opportunity. If you're a responsive businessman or entrepreneur, you could see the opportunities in VHS rental. It was easy to see. Just get your hands on around $15,000 or so, and you can get that starter collection of about 150, 200 videos, and then get yourself a small store room, but you don't need a lot of space, and just park yourself in a community that's got a lot of families, and you are good to go. Remember Alan Payne's figures, you need to rent these tapes about 22 times before it is pure profit. And remember, you've got a lot on your side. There is a growing audience as more and more people take up VHS ownership, or VCR ownership, I should say. And the studios are pumping out a continuous stream of new film releases, whether it's from the back catalogue or a brand new film. So there's always a novelty factor to keep bringing people in. And you can sell other things, sell snacks or something. If you're creative, you can make a lot of money out of this. And with the bar to entry so low, lots of entrepreneurs across the country got involved, and you had these independent video rental stores popping up all over the country. And there are so many that the industry is growing rapidly, to the point that by the mid-80s, you could have a fairly expensive showy industry event like the VSDA convention, the Video Software Dealers Association convention, which was big enough to be hosted by Claudia Schiffer and Chuck Norris, which is where our Blockbuster executives met them. I told you I would get back to...
Good evening from Blockbuster. A reminder that with your rentals and Doritos today, you can also pick up one of our many films as well, and repeatedly loved ex-rental copies, yours to own forever for about £16, adjusted for inflation. Now that a rental train has been run on these beloved hits, they're ready to settle down in your family film collection. All our ex-rental videos are sold in good condition, though that scene in Wild Things might be a bit worn out. Regardless, help yourself to a bargain today and make it a Blockbuster night.
Need some work on the phrasing. I've lost where I was. Let's move on. In summary, the early to mid-80s really is the sweet spot of economic and technological factors which create the environment in which Blockbuster and all the other video rental businesses can absolutely thrive, just skyrocket overnight. You have the brand new technology of VHS creating a new opportunity. You have the pricing point system just perfect, so people can afford a VCR, but they can't afford to build their own massive film collections. You know, they don't want to watch just the one movie 50 times, although don't look at my VHS copy of The Shining. However, a small business entrepreneur, they can afford to build up a nice collection and start their store. And lastly, the VCRs had reached a level of, say, adoption in the market. Enough people had them that they could support the industry. If you tried to do it in the late 70s, there just weren't enough VCR owners. You couldn't have managed it, whereas early to mid 80s, you had enough of a market that could support these businesses all around. And as such, video rental took off. And everyone was winning in this. Studios raking in the cash, they were absolutely winning. Video rental store entrepreneurs, they were winning. And the movie renting public, they were definitely winning and very happy. And so naturally, there was a lawsuit trying to shut it all down. Of course there was. The initial lawsuits that began in 1976 and ended in a narrow defeat in the Supreme Court in 1984 focused on copyright. That's Sony Corporation of America versus Universal City Studios Incorporated. Studios argued that people recording shows on tape in their own homes were infringing copyright, and that Sony's Betamax recorder enabled this. They could obviously foresee people lending tapes to friends and other consequences of losing the control of their content. And at the same time, the studio's lawsuit aimed to stop Betamax and VCR sales, which is a little weird given that those studios were making so much money selling the tapes to studios at a premium. Hedging their bets, you might say. Those same studios also tried to kill the video rental industry early on via their drafted legislation, the Consumer Video Sales Rental Act 1983. However, as the US Congress decided that renting purchase tapes out to people was fair use, the battle was lost and VHS was confirmed as legit. Congress may not have used those exact words. And you can understand their concern because this was very much widespread. People really enjoyed the ability to just tape things off the TV, and it was very much enabled by a number of very well-known businesses. You could just buy the blank VHSs, and if you didn't mind that in the early days they only had about a 2-hour capacity and were about 240p resolution, then you just tape whatever you want. And these were affordable. Like, any general store would carry a number of brands, empty VHSs. They weren't expensive. You could buy, say, solar ones like this for about $3.49. Panasonic's did packs for $12. Sony did packs for $10.40, and Bush did $9.11. It was really easy to get your hands on it. It was widespread. So with the battles over technology and legality won, video rental was now a legitimate and extremely popular business, and that is the world that David and Sandy Cook entered in October 1985 when they opened the first Blockbuster in Dallas, Texas. Now, in the next episode, in the next shift, I'll go over how Blockbuster became number one and beat out the rest of the competition, because Blockbuster, they weren't the earliest, they didn't get the head start on anyone, they certainly weren't the biggest name around, and they weren't the most well-connected either. But they made several key decisions that mean we are talking about Blockbuster now, and not, say, Hollywood Video or Movies to Go. I will get into that next time. Right now, I kind of want to just pop a movie on. Something scary. Maybe Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, the one where the guy had knives for fingers? I like that movie. It was scary. Well, the first one was, but the rest sucked. Anyway, well, I'll get into it. I'll share my thoughts and maybe you'd like to listen. Anyway, I'm rambling. Join me next shift for details on the early days of Blockbuster, and catch my commentary on Nightmare on Elm Street. And return your damn tapes on time. Those fines are expensive, you know.